G'day folks and welcome back to Wellywood Wargaming. My name is Damon and in this episode I'm going to be talking about campaign variants. Now Games Workshop were very lovely in creating a bunch of campaign variants that alter the way that you play the game of Necromunda. A lot of these hark back to the glory days of N95 when I was a wee teenager, and a lot of these rules that we have here really do take me back to what I really loved most about Necromunda back in the day. So we're going to go through some of the campaign variants here and describe the differences if you want to start playing these. Again though, if you're new to Necromunda, I would always recommend starting with the Dominion campaign before you get into some of these ones. These really are for the slightly more experienced players in there. Before we get started though, please do like, share, subscribe, and check out the Patreon as well if you'd like to support me further. So the first campaign system we're going to look at here is the Old Kingdoms one. Some parts of the Underhive have been under the control of the same gang since before anyone alive can remember. Every now and then, something changes and a gang collapses or wants more, and then the gangs go to war, re-soaking the same old ground with fresh blood. In the Old Kingdoms variant, players each start with 2 random territories out of those drawn from the campaign. The remainder are discarded and there is no occupation phase in this variant. Instead, there are 2 3-week takeover phases separated by 1 week of downtime. So really simple. You start with 2 random territories and you immediately start taking them off each other, and this is quite a short, sweet, nice sort of campaign system to run. So contrary to what I said earlier about the Dominion campaign, this might actually be a good place to start, though it can be a little bit brutal if someone just takes your stuff straight off you. So that is the Old Kingdoms campaign. The next one is called Into the Unknown. In this variant, the gangs are exploring an area where everything is unknown. Perhaps a pass into an inaccessible part of the Underhive has opened up, or the gangs have prospected deep into Hive Bottom or out into the Ash Wastes. This variant works like the Dominion campaign, but rather than revealing the territories at the start of the campaign, they are kept secret. A territory is still chosen as the stake for each battle, but that territory is chosen from the unrevealed territories before being revealed. Simply, territories are only revealed once a player wins them and they're fought over. In the takeover phase, battles are fought over either revealed territories held by a gang or over a territory that has not yet been revealed. So a slight variation on the Dominion campaign there in that you don't really know what you're fighting over. I really like this, and in fact this is a minor modification that I would add to the Dominion campaign just to add a little bit more flavor so that gangs aren't just going for the optimal choices all the time and being meta. We then have the Escalation Campaign, which is as follows. Sometimes on Necromunda things get bad. You telling me? And then they just keep on getting worse. In an Escalation Campaign, gangs continue to increase in size and power regardless of the outcome of the battles they play. To defeat their opponents, players cannot simply win their battles, but must utterly crush their enemies, or seek victory in other ways, as even a weakened opponent will soon return to the fighting strength. An Escalation Campaign uses the following rules. In an Escalation Campaign, territories and similar mechanics do not grant any credit rewards at all, though they may still provide other benefits. Gangs do not gain credits as rewards from scenarios, regardless of the outcome. Gangs cannot earn credits from selling equipment or fighters. Instead though, after each battle a gang takes part in, you add 250 credits to your stash, just like downtime in a Dominion campaign, and the most a gang can earn in this way is 500 credits. So you can't ever earn more than 500 credits, even if you play 4 games, for example. In an Escalation Campaign, triumphs relating to the acquiring of credits and wealth are not used. So every gang is on an even keel, every gang gets the same amount, and I really do like this. It's a very simple, easy way to play the game. 250 credits after every battle is a lot, but if everybody's on an even keel, it's not so bad. The next one is my absolute favorite, and this is taken straight from N95. So if you didn't play or you weren't alive back in 95, this was pretty much the classic Necromunda campaign back in the day, and it was awesome for a number of reasons. We're going to go through those now. The classic Necromunda campaign, when a player is creating their gang, they can only equip their fighters with common items from the trading post and any items that are unique to their house equipment list. So you still get your house equipment list and common items. Pretty easy, right? However, flak armor and mesh armor are rare 10, and all fighters begin the campaign without armor, which does not alter their cost. Really awesome, that one. Gangs cannot include any hangers-on or brutes or use gang tactics cards, so that takes all of that out of the mix and makes things all a bit more simple. All battles take place in the Underhive, which means that you do not get any credits or extra credits or anything for mounted fighters or vehicles. They're just not in it. This is Underhive, and this is where it really happens. A gang can, this is something I actually use in my campaigns, a gang can never contain more than 2 heavy and or special weapons at any time. I really like this. Heavies used to actually be a piece in your gang roster. A heavy was like a champion. They could have heavy weapons, nobody else could. It was a nice way to play the game. The seek rare equipment action is changed as follows as well, and I really do like this a lot. The player rolls a d6 for each leader or champion that performed a trade action during the post-battle action step and consults the table below, and it is as follows. On a 1 or 2, it's a weapon, so they roll a d6. On a 1-2, it's a basic weapon, 3 a pistol, 4 a special weapon, 5 a heavy weapon, and 6 a close combat weapon. On a 3 to 4, it's a piece of war gear, so on a 1, grenades, 2 gang equipment, 3 personal equipment, 4 weapon accessories, 5 status item, and 6 exotic beasts. And on a 5 to 6, you roll a d6 and it's armor, 1 to 5 regular armor, and 6 it is field armor. So just to be clear there, the way that you do trading is utterly different. You never know what you're going to get. If you roll a 3 after rolling a 1 or 2, you may choose a pistol from the trading post, and that's just what you get. You might not want a pistol, you might be looking for a power fist, but instead you've got to choose from pistols. That's just the way it was back then, and I do really like the way that that happens. It sort of represents a trader coming, opening his jacket, showing you what's inside, and you've just got to choose from that. Each player begins the campaign with 3 Dominion campaign territories. These territories are chosen by the player from all those available. There is no limit on how many players can choose the same type of territory, so you may choose 3 Dominion territories, and that is what you get. During the pre-battle sequence, players ignore the make challenge and stake territory step. Instead, players organize battles as they see fit. Pretty easy. This is nice if you trust your players and they're all good to organize and they're all grown-ups and can do their own thing, then this is perfect. At the end of a battle, if the winning gang takes at least 3 times the amount of enemy fighters, a minimum of 3, out of action as the opposing gang did, you claim their territory, and you may choose which type of territory you're taking over as well. There are no campaign weeks, phases, or downtime in a classic campaign. An arbitrator and the players can decide how long they wish to run it. So really easy going on that too. And the last point here, a classic Necromunda campaign uses the following optional rules. So unreliable weapons, hail of bullets, wild grenades, shells, and exploding weapons as well. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, but those are really, really fun special rules that you can throw in there if you really want to too. The next one, and this is a really fun one and actually quite a good one for a weekender or tournament, I would recommend this one, is the Iron Man campaign. In this one, every gang starts with 3,000 credits worth of stuff. So when creating the gang, players can ignore the restrictions for including hangers-on and brutes based on reputation. So you can have a dozen brutes if you really wanted to. Unspent credits are added to the gang's stash, but can only be used to pay for visits to the dock. So this is brutal, this one, by the way. 3,000 credits, so pretty much an army of Necromunda stuff. During gang creation, fighters may be equipped with any item from their house equipment list. The trading post, regardless of the rare or illegal rules, fighters can still only be equipped with items available to their fighter type. Pretty cool there. Dramatis Personae, Bounty Hunters, and Hive Scum can all be added to the gang during its creation for the purposes of this type of campaign. These fighters ignore the dead, not alive, claiming bounties, and will get our bit special rule. Leaders begin the campaign with 15 XP. So champions begin the campaign with 10 XP, and every other fighter begins the campaign with 6 XP, meaning that you can spend them right away on skills and increases, which is really cool too. So this is definitely set up as a sort of tournament sort of pack, I suppose, but 3,000 credits is a lot. Dominion campaign territories are determined as normal, then are divided up randomly between the players. House agents, house favors, and alliances are not used because that just overcomplicates things too much. During the pre-battle sequence, the recruit hired gun step is not used. During the post-battle sequence, the collect income and visit the trading post steps are not used either. In effect, players may never add new equipment or fighters to their gangs from any source. So you start with a huge gang and you end up with a tiny little whittled away, beaten up, bruised and battered gang. When a fighter, including hired guns, suffers a lasting injury, instead of rolling the lasting injuries table, the opposing player rolls a d6 on a 1 to 3 out cold, on a 4 to 5 critical injury, and on a 6 memorable death. So it's much harsher on the injuries there. There is no campaign week, phases, or downtime in an Iron Man campaign, and it continues until either there is only one gang left able to field fighters, all but one of the players has retired their gang due to losses. So that is brutal, but a really good, fun sort of weekender that I would recommend playing with those rules. The next one is called Dome Rush. In a Dome Rush, territory is handled differently. In a Dome Rush campaign, fines are quickly turned into credits and then gangs moved on to fresh areas, traveling nomadically from camp to camp rather than establishing a hideout. When a gang would claim a new territory as a result of winning a battle, they instead add D6 times 50 credits to their stash, representing the fines in that region being quickly converted into credits. At the start of the first campaign week, the arbitrator should generate a single random territory. This represents the first area the gangs are exploring, and it will remain in play for the duration of the first campaign week. For the first campaign week, all gangs gain the boons associated with this territory. This means they will all earn credits from it, gain free fighters, or enjoy any other boons, just as if their gang was in control of the territory. At the start of the second campaign week, the arbitrator discards this territory and generates a new one to take its place. This process is repeated at the start of each campaign week for the duration of the campaign. In a Dome Rush, lots of good loot is flowing out of the newly discovered area. To reflect this and represent the eagerness of guilders to capitalize on this new wealth, all gangs add 2 to the availability level when seeking rare or illegal equipment. Pretty cool. Victory is determined by reputation and credits. Triumphs relating to the gaining and holding of territory are not used. We then have the last gang standing here. This campaign consists of only a single phase, itself lasting between 3 and 6 campaign weeks here, as decided by the arbitrator. At the start of the first campaign week, the arbitrator should generate a single random territory. This represents the extent of the small settlement the gangs are fighting over. All gangs gain the boons associated with this territory. This means they will earn credits from it, like the previous one there as well. Gangs cannot recruit new fighters other than those generated as territory boons here, nor can they make use of hired guns, though they can still visit the trading post or black market and buy new equipment. Every battle in this campaign is a multiplayer battle. Each time a battle is fought, the arbitrator chooses the scenario and all gangs participate. Alliances between gangs are encouraged, but players should feel free to betray their alliances at the most opportune moments, representing the ruthlessness of the gangs in their drive for supremacy. When a fighter goes out of action, no roll on the lasting injury table is made. Instead, it is assumed the fighter has been killed in a savage war for supremacy. If a gang bottles out, the arbitrator removes D3 fighters at random from their gang, not including their leader, and this represents the gang is new and inexperienced. Victory goes to the gang with the highest gang rating at the end of the phase. No other triumphs are used. I like that one, and again, that would be a pretty good sort of system to use at, say, a one-day event, either a sort of tournament or just a sort of, a narrative sort of Necromunda event. I think that would be a really good one to use. It's nice and simple. We then have the Hive Empires campaign here as well. To play out the kind of macro warfare represented by a Hive Empires campaign, the arbitrator will need to create a map depicting the locations of different gang holdings and the battlefields they're fighting over. On the map, draw a number of zones. There should be 3 times as many as there are players in the campaign, and then draw lines linking each zone to one or more other zones, representing the tunnels between these zones. The arbitrator then gives the zone appropriate names, such as Cogwind Canyons or Sump City River or Ash Docks, for example, and the players begin the campaign in control of 3 connected zones. The arbitrator can either assign these or have the players choose randomly. Each player has 3,000 credits again to spend on their gang, and at the start of the campaign, each gang has a territory or racket for each zone they control. When issuing challenges, players can only attack zones that are connected to a zone they control, unless they make a deal with another player to pass through their zones. If the challenger successfully claims a territory or racket, then they take control of the zone and the territory or racket it contains, and victory is determined using the normal sort of triumphs that you get in a Dominion campaign. Pretty cool. The next one is Nomads of the Underhive here. The Nomads of the Underhive campaign, each player has only 700 credits to create their starting gang rather than the usual 1,000. If fighting in the Ash Wastes, each player adds 300 credits to that 700, giving you a total of 1,300 to be spent on mounted fighters and vehicles there as well. At the beginning of this type of campaign, the arbitrator should generate as many territories as there are gangs involved. Gangs cannot earn more than 100 credits in each campaign week, regardless of the source. That's pretty cool, so limited on the credits there. The scarcity of goods in this type of campaign means that gangs are limited in the equipment they can have. Gangs may not begin with any equipment that, in the trading post, has a rare or illegal trait with the value of X being greater than 10, even if included in their house list. Gangs may not purchase during any post-battle sequence any equipment that, in the trading post, has a rarity of 10 or more as well, and gangs may purchase any other equipment from either their house list or trading post as normal. At the end of each campaign week, after gaining any boons from them, each gang must discard all but one of its territories. They may choose which territories to discard. If a gang no longer controls any territories, they remain in the campaign and may capture territory as usual. Victory is determined by the last gang to hold a territory. The last one here is Hodes War, and this is a big one. At the start of the campaign, the arbitrator should divide the players' gangs evenly into those deputized by the guilders and supporting the Purge, and those declared as renegades and fighting against the Purge. If there are an uneven number of players, then the odd gang joins the outlaws in this one. Only outlaw gangs start controlling any territories or rackets. Create a pool of territories or rackets equal to the number of outlaw gangs taking part in this campaign. For the purposes of the campaign, all outlaw gangs benefit from these territories or rackets just as if their gang was in sole control of them. Deputized gangs begin the campaign with no territories or rackets but may spend an additional 250 credits when creating their gangs. As there are no unclaimed territories or rackets, gangs may challenge other gangs for territories or rackets from the beginning of the campaign. Whenever a deputized gang would gain a territory or racket from an outlaw gang, this territory or racket is discarded from the campaign and is considered to now be under control. There is no restriction on which gangs can fight each other. After all, it can be imagined that deputized gangs mistake each other for outlaws while outlaws are struggling over the shrinking turf. In these kinds of battles, no territories or rackets can change hands, but gangs may earn credits, experience, and rep as normal. Victory is dependent on the remaining rackets and territories. If all of these have been captured by the deputized gangs, then their side is victorious. Otherwise, the purge has failed and the outlaw gangs stand victorious. Other triumphs may be used to determine secondary victory conditions as usual. Whew, that is all of the campaign variants that we have included here. Of course, you can make your own, so go and check out my create your own campaign video if you haven't already, because that pulls some of these ideas into it. We also have a little bit on perpetual campaigns here and just how to carry on with a campaign and just keep going for years and years if you really want to. Personally, I'm not going to get into that too much because I do like to switch it up and change the campaign mechanics each time that I play, just for something fresh and new. I think it can get a bit stagnant and stale if you just play the same campaign over and over again. I couldn't think of anything worse than just playing the Dominion campaign over and over again, so do check these out. Again though, just highlighting there, I think my absolute favorite here is definitely the old school classic campaign there. It just really does take me back to 95 when life was just so easy back then. Now we all have jobs and kids and it's really hard, but man, that was so good. I remember having my Van Saar gang, the gang roster that I used to take to Games Workshop in Cambridge. Shout out to Games Workshop Cambridge back in the day there. The gang roster I used to take, just covered in pencil that I'd rubbed out over and over again. The piece of paper was like falling apart. It had holes in it and stuff, but I cherished it. I used to gaze at my gang list all the time. My Van Saar leader with my power fist. Awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. I miss the good old days, but Necromunda is always here in my heart. And, you know, as long as you bring back rules like this, then what can I say? Perfect, really. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and it gives you some insight in how to, you know, run other types of campaign systems. And also, you can pull some of this information into your own campaign, include some of it in there. Personally, I'd really like to do the Iron Man one at some point, but I don't have 3,000 credits worth of any gang. That's huge. Particularly, can you imagine 3,000 credits worth of Cawdor? Just bone pickers? Be about 70 bone pickers, I reckon, at least. That would be really funny anyway. But I might do one of these as a sort of weekend event, perhaps some point soon in Sydney next year. So if you're interested and you're in Australia, let me know, because I am looking at venues to do a weekend WellyCon of sorts at some point. So stay tuned for that one. I will be back with another video real soon. Peace out.